Now, viewers may not be aware, but in Imperial we have a hybrid weights and measures system. We use feet and inches for things like height, and we use metric units for calculations and so on and so forth. But a lot of our units were changed from imperial units to metric units by joining the EU, because the EU was seeking to standardize regulations about weights and measures. It just made sense for everyone to use metric units, meters, kilometers, and so on. And from a practical perspective, one can argue that meters are far superior, the metric system. But practical perspectives are not what concern people like Jacob Rees-Mogg, you might argue, who is far more taken with the traditional. So let's get into this argument. Brexit, reports The Independent. Governments to launch study on economic benefits of reintroducing imperial units. Exclusive. Business minister mocked for ludicrous attempt to quantify Brexit benefit.
This is not ridiculous at all.
No?
I mean, I suppose we should start this off with a little bit of a conversation about units, because both of us have STEM backgrounds, and therefore we're used to using the European metric system for everything.
Yep.
But everyone who, I mean, for Europeans this will probably be hard to quantify, but for Americans especially, I imagine it'll be easy. All the imperial stuff is way more human. Like, how much is a liter of beer? Like, it doesn't. I mean, you remember from 1984, there's a scene in there in which a guy goes into a pub and he says, do you want a liter of beer? And he's like, no, I want a pint. Pint's enough. Half a pint's not, liter's too much. Pint's just perfect. And it's the same with all these measurements. They're based on sort of human things. Like, you are able to measure things in a way that's actually satisfactory, rather than just like some scientific thing that you have to think about. I don't know if you get what I mean.
No, you're absolutely correct on that. But the argument, of course, is that then converting between, even within the same system, is like how many pints are there in a quart, for example? How many quarts in a gallon, and so on? It's not like you can just multiply it by the same amount each time. No, there's a different multiplication factor or a different conversion factor, even within the unit system. And that's what makes it difficult.
Those downsides, obviously. But the human factor, I mean, there's a review of 1984 I saw from some leftist on YouTube who was complaining. He was like, Orwell just whines about the metric system for no reason. It's like, it's not for no reason. Like, the party is incredibly scientific, it's a scientific worldview, and this old human worldview of the past and using pints and things, yeah, there is something to it. It's not nothing.
But surely some of these measurements, like when it's not human but it's business, like hogsheads of ale, for example, that's not a human measurement, that's a business measurement for a pub.
It's also a much better word.
It may be a great word, but would you really want to be running your business on the basis of having to make calculations about how many pints there are in a hogshead or something like that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for the business side of it, absolutely, I can get these arguments. But for the just like day-to-day life, I don't want a litre of beer.
No, absolutely not. Well, that's the classic example. No one wants 568 ml of beer either. What if you asked for 568 and you got 569? I mean, often you get a pint and it will be not exactly 568 ml of beer. In fact, it will never be precisely 568.000000000 ml of beer, no matter how good you are at pouring a pint. So what are you really asking for there? It removes the human element, and I can see that as the classic example. But metric is so much better for calculations. It's easy to remember, it's international, it's practical. Surely it's got loads of economic advantages.
There was, I think it was an American space probe or a British space probe that was landing on Mars or something, and the guys doing the calculations done it all in imperial, in metric, and they handed it over to the Americans, did everything imperial, and put in the numbers, and it didn't
Basically,
work.
yeah.
It blew up.
That's a classic example of where it can really fail to have more than one measurement system. But you can understand that it seems worthy to have a human system and a calculation system, and that would mean you'd have to learn two systems, where people, especially children, would think, oh, that's just unnecessary effort. But maybe it's worth it to have, so that you don't end up having a litre of beer at your pub. So they continue. Imperial's alternative system of measuring weights and volume of products was used more or less exclusively in Britain, though the US maintains a parallel system with similar names but different measurements. And the US has basically kept all of it, right, as I understand it.
Yeah, which is annoying. Like, I wish more of them did learn what the metric system is, because I like having both, frankly. I think it is best of both worlds.
Yeah. No, I agree, but unfortunately, I'm ashamed to say I am terrible at the conversions.
Oh, yeah.
So I have to learn the system again when I'm using. So I learned to cook, for example, using ounces and pounds and that sort of thing, which is fine. But then if I go and do something else, like to do with volume, for example, if I'm brewing beer and I'm calculating, okay, how many pints do I need in this cowboy? You have to learn the system of volume all over again. As opposed to the metric system of weight, in which 1,000 grams are equivalent to 1 kilogram, the imperial system says there are 14 pounds in a stone and 16 ounces in a pound.
Yeah, it's all just completely weird and arbitrary. I mean, it's like the worst example is probably the old British coin system.
Right.
Like I've never even bothered learning it because it's just so mad.
Well, there were 240 pence in a pound, right?
Yeah, but then there are florins and shillings and crowns and angels.
And people got used to using these through custom. So people would charge in shillings in 3 columns. It would be pounds, shillings, and pence. And shillings are sort of this invented middle road, which people accounted from. So they had a very idiosyncratic way of accounting money, which I quite like. I think it's
But we're not bringing that back because that's the other extreme.
Yeah, exactly. That would be hilarious. But
for Brexit Britain, we bring the shilling back. Honestly, that would be a funny laugh.
Job done. I tell you what, if the Conservatives are still desperate for, like, I don't know, this sort of nostalgia politics, then bringing back the pounds, shilling, and pence.
Like, make it 28 pence. Just that's a shilling or whatever now.
Right.
Why not?
That would be hilarious, even though probably very unpopular. For liquid, there are 20 fluid ounces in a pint and 160 fluid ounces in a gallon, instead of metrics 1,000 millilitres in a litre. Yeah, what's your problem? While the measurements have largely been out of use for some 60 years, they are believed by politicians to be beloved of some older voters, and so occasionally become a political issue. In reality, Britain operates a mixed system, with businesses using metric weights and measures, while imperial miles are used on road signs and pints used in pubs.
But you can see the divide there again, and it's because they're actually both serving their purpose, which is the metric system is used for business, for science, for precise measurements. We just need to get it done, and the imperial system is used for everyday life. The road signs. I drive my car; it's miles per hour. Because how that is. The pints in the pub, as we say, and stuff. They're serving a purpose. There is nothing to these things, and they do have their own values.
And all weights and measurements are to some degree arbitrary, because you just have to choose where the unit lies in magnitude and so on. So there is that aspect as well. And when you're dealing with, for example, atomic charge and that sort of thing, then you use, for example, atomic units and so on, which are not derived necessarily from the metric system. They are, okay, this is going to be the weight of a nucleon or a proton or a neutron, something like that.
It's some reality thing that's going on.
Yeah,
and
then again, when you're talking about astronomical units, you will use things like astronomical units, which 1 astronomical unit is the distance between Earth and the Sun. So if you learn one thing today, that's kind of handy. I think that's a very handy measurement system. Then you've also got stuff like parsecs and light years and so on. And a light year, which is, I forget that, forgotten it, but a light year is a useful measurement when you're calculating stuff in the universe, but it's not actually a metric unit. It's as arbitrary as a pound or an ounce, really.
Sure.
So you then convert it to meters.
It's based on the Earth moving around, yeah. But I mean, the astronomical unit is probably the best one you've mentioned there, for just like so arbitrary. It's just like the Earth to the Sun.
That's the speed of light, not a light year.
So just the Earth to the Sun. Yeah, that'll do. Like, that's a measurement. It's just like, yeah, okay. I mean, again, it's useful and everything, but again, it's useful because it's more human.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, literally, it's the difference from the humans to the sun.
So it's worth pointing that out, because at the extreme ends of the scale, we do use these kind of arbitrary units, and it's not like metric is supreme in the world of science, because there are these other things that we use as well. But it's also the fact that if you're an older voter and you didn't learn the metric system at school, and then suddenly the entire country decided, because of Europe, that they were just going to change everything over to these units, which you don't understand intuitively because you've never really had to deal with them, I can imagine they would feel nostalgic for a world of units which they can actually understand.
Sure, but some of it is you've got to move with the times.
Oh, yeah.
The times change and we change with the times. But I really do like our system. It's a weird thing to feel kind of patriotic about.
Yep.
But the fact that we have the human element for if you're, as I say, in a pub, and it all makes sense. And then when you're out doing calculations on your spreadsheets, completely different matter.
I completely agree. Paul Scully, a Tory business minister, said reintroducing imperial labelling would be an important step in taking back control, and that a planned assessment of the economic impact on business will be carried out in due course.
Yeah.
But the Liberal Democrat business spokesman, and we can forget what she says now because it won't be useful. Sarah Olney accused the government of wasting taxpayer money. This is the old canard. It comes out every time the government does something the progressives don't like. They're wasting money.
But when you're wasting it on rainbow crossings,
like a multi-trillion-pound green industrial revolution plan, or
desperate
painting police cars in pride colours. That's not wasting taxpayers' money.
Diversity officers in the NHS that literally cost millions upon millions every year.
That's not wasting taxpayers' money. And Sarah said there were more important things to worry about. The fact that the government is undertaking a study into this shows just how out of touch they are.
I'm sorry, but no, there are more things to worry about, like my alphabet that's getting longer and longer.
Yeah, exactly.
Shut up.
LGBTQIAB plus minus equals.
I imagine, because I remember the story, this is mostly focused on the pint of champagne that they want to bring back. And quite frankly, I would also like to be able to go and buy a meal deal and get a pint of water.
Yeah, that's true. Same here. It's ludicrous that they think this will help businesses after they hit them with a national insurance rise, true, and have done nothing to help with their soaring energy bills, also true. But that's not just businesses, also everyone. Yes. And that's because of your green agenda, by the way, that these bills are going up. But let's skate over that.
The national insurance was for the NHS to hire diversity hires.
Yes.
Soaring energy bills was for the Green Industrial Revolution.
Yeah. Problem solved.
Again, I'm not happy. Like, the Conservatives, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
But
like most public spending of any Conservative government outside of wartime.
Damn Conservatives doing progressivism? I agree, for different reasons.
Ministers must explain how reverting to a system not used in nearly 60 years will help businesses attract new customers, and how Imperial units will be of any help to companies looking to trade with the rest of the world when the vast majority of countries use the metric system.
Should we crack out the American flags?
I mean, she does have a good point there, but then when we don't want to be using this system that no one else understands, because everyone else would just be like, you know what, let's not trade with Barmistan, where we don't understand units. We're not the only country with some wacky traditional measurements, by the way. I remember when I was learning Japanese, I'd come across occasional characters which are just rogue, and you look at it, and there was one unit which was, I think it's called the monme, which is a measurement of the size of a pearl. For when you're trading in pearls, they have a specific counter for this sort of thing, which is amazing, that sort of thing. And obviously, if they were using that for all of their trading, no one would trade with them because it would be too much of a headache, right? Learning this whole ridiculous system of
but it's measurements aren't the only thing that make it strange to trade in a foreign land. I mean, there are a million other things that are foreign about the place, and you get over them.
Yeah,
because you want to make money.
Exactly.
It's not that big of a deal.
There's lots of measurements like that, particularly in Japan, about measuring rice. So like they have the koku, which is a particular allowance of rice, and that's used throughout history for taxation.
There's the language problems, the cultural differences. I mean, I can't remember if it's Russian or something. You can't wear jeans in an advert because that means you're a gangster. It's just like, you get over these things.
But this fundamentally, weights and measures is a language problem. And the fact that we have a universal language in the metric system that can cross borders is actually a very good thing, I think, and that's why we support it for calculations. And
we will continue using it.
But I want a pint. I don't want 568 mil. And instead of wasting taxpayers' money on looking to bring back imperial measurements, the government should be focusing on the real issues affecting business, like the miles of queues at our ports and the reams of red tape thrown up by Boris Johnson's shambolic EU trade deal. Right, yes, progressives. And then
still salty.
Mr. Scully said we are reviewing the EU ban on the use of imperial units for marking so that businesses have more choice over the measures they use. This is an important step in taking back control of our national rules, and we will consult to ensure that we have the best evidence available on which to make changes. An assessment of the economic impact on businesses will be carried out in due course.
See, that gets to a point, though. Because you may have thought, well, it's silly, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't that people just switched and stopped using imperial. It was banned.
Exactly.
So all they're doing is saying, right, that government restriction, delete.
Right. So basically what's happening here is there is some EU red tape, or blue tape, shall we call it, which is left over, tied all over our businesses that we've inherited from this arrangement that we've had for them for many years. And they're removing the tape. They're removing the ban. They're not saying, okay, you all have to use imperial units now. Anyone using meters will be shot. It's nothing like that, sadly. But no, but they're just saying, okay, businesses can decide.
Yeah, like if you're a filthy frog from Evian and you want to continue making water, we're not sponsored by Evian, it's just what I've got to hand. What is this? What is this in bloody frog language? 500. I'm just going to say, it's 50 centiliters. There we are, 500 milliliters. You want to do that? That's fine. No one cares. But if you want to change it to something that's more sensible, like a pint of water, Go for it.
Well, to be honest, I think the extra 68 mil is very important for an adult man.
Yeah, you are right though, because this is not enough.
No.
The guy in the pub in 1984, this is actually not enough.
Yeah, and you don't
the
want
big
to
ones
go
are
up
too
for like
much.
750 mil or 660 mil because that's too much.
But
Yeah.
no, but they sell two in Tesco's, right? I know this is becoming me whining about meal deal, but so they sell this and then they sell a litre one. Litre's too much. This one's not enough. The guy in the pub, 100% right.
Yep.
Every single day I have this problem.
Orwell was right.
If you enjoyed that section from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Contemplation series that we have going up at the weekend. This is Josh's little baby, and as you can see, this is on nostalgia and whether or not it's useful. And if you'd like to find out what else Josh is up to, you can follow him on Getter at @Josh_firm on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.